I transmigrated into the beautiful ex-girlfriend of a rebellious male protagonist. In a cramped, rented room, I was impatiently urging him to eat faster. The teenager, with skull tattoos covering his arms, said coldly, "Don't yell at me. Apologize. Apologize to me." I raised my hand as if to hit him. "Hurry up and eat. Do I have to coax you just to get you to eat? Hurry up." The boy instinctively flinched but stubbornly kept muttering, "Apologize. Apologize." I raised my hand again. The boy dodged with a tilt of his head, his voice growing quieter. "Just wait till I'm rich. You'll be the first one I kick to the curb. Just you wait." Later, he truly achieved fame and success. At the flashing lights of the press conference, he glanced at me smugly. I remained silent and that night, tactfully packed my things and left on my own. But the man suddenly fell to his knees with a thud, tightly clutching my leg, his voice full of grievance and panic. "You don't want me anymore. How could you not want me anymore? How dare you abandon me? You're going to be the death of me." Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. As the cannon fodder female supporting character, Alfred's beautiful ex-girlfriend, I play both father and mother roles every day. Nothing else. When I first transmigrated into this world, Alfred was just going through his rebellious phase, covered in skeleton tattoos on his arms. Dark and skinny, he squeezed into the crowd of card players. Anyone who didn't know better might have thought he was a wild monkey that had just come down from some mountain. Only his eyes shone with an astonishing brightness. When someone called out to him, those eyes looked over with such pure innocence. Yet the moment they saw me, the pupils contracted abruptly, a face gaunt with fear. "Ethel, what brings you here?" While saying this, he secretly tried to stuff his handful of cards into the blonde guy's arms beside him. Hearing this, everyone turned their heads in unison. And indeed, they saw it was me. Immediately, they screamed and scattered like frightened birds and beasts. Runs faster than a chicken. Understandable. After all, as Alfred's childhood sweetheart and girlfriend who grew up relying on each other, my fiery temper is quite notorious. But Alfred is exactly the type who never learns from his mistakes. "What are you here for?" His legs were trembling with fear, yet his mouth remained defiant. "Do you even realize you're disturbing my brothers?" His eyes darted around while speaking, not daring to look at me. I sneered. "Brothers, take a good look. There's no one behind you." Alfred paled slightly but still stubbornly retorted, That's because it's mealtime. Who wouldn't go home to eat?" I crossed my arms and quietly watched him defend his so-called friends. After he finished speaking, he suddenly raised his hand. Alfred was startled and immediately closed his eyes, covering his head to dodge. Seeing his pathetic reaction, I almost burst out laughing. The intended slap turned into a gentle pat on his head instead. With every touch, Alfred shivered all over. Finally, he relaxed. It wasn't meant to hit him, so he instinctively narrowed his eyes and nuzzled in enjoyment. Only after nuzzling did he realize what a foolish thing he had just done. He abruptly pushed my hand away and glared at me. Who said you could touch me?" The push wasn't too hard, but I deliberately let out a hiss and clutched my hand. Alfred panicked and quickly leaned in, nervously holding my hand. I didn't mean to. Does it hurt? Should I blow on it for you?" Seeing his silly, flustered expression, couldn't hold it in any longer. I burst out laughing. Alfred finally realized he'd been tricked by me. Furious and humiliated, he shook off my hand and stormed off toward home. Back when I first crossed over, I was still complaining about how I ended up with such a wild young guy. I thought, as the system suggested, I'd just quietly play the role of a cannon fodder ex-girlfriend until the real female lead appeared. But this guy just keeps pushing my limits. On his first day here, he dyed his hair in bright colors and rode his motorcycle all over the streets. This is truly embarrassing. I grabbed him by the hair and dragged him back home. Alfred was indignant but didn't dare to fight back. During dinner, he sulked in silence, picking at his food one grain of rice at a time. I was furious. He's already skinny to begin with, and now he's not eating properly. If he were to kick the bucket on my watch, the system would probably tear me to pieces. I urged him impatiently to eat properly. I was just a little loud. Alfred got upset, his face darkening. Don't yell at me. Apologize. Say sorry to me. I raised my hand as if to hit him. Hurry up and eat. Do I have to coax you to eat? Hurry up. The boy instinctively flinched, still stubbornly muttering under his breath. Apologize. Apologize. I reached out again. The boy tilted his head to dodge, his voice growing weaker. Just wait till I get rich. You'll be the first one I kick to the curb. Just you wait. Kick me to the curb, he says. Look at what he's become now. No idea why he was chosen to be the male lead. I really feel bad for the future female lead. But the system says not to worry. All men are like this. They'll grow out of their rebellious phase. I was shocked. Big bro. How old is he? Still going through a rebellious phase. He didn't even take the college entrance exam. Just loafing around at home every day. When I asked about the plot, I found out this kid was loafing until 23 when his biological parents found him, took him home to live in luxury, and in the same year, he even had an arranged marriage with the female lead's family, falling in love after marriage. I asked about Ethel, and the system replied, dead. A casual, dead. Cannon fodder. Ethel thus ended her life, not even leaving behind a good reputation. As I read through the plot, a growing sense of sorrow welled up in my heart. In the eyes of everyone, even her childhood sweetheart and boyfriend Alfred, who grew up depending on each other, Ethel was seen as nothing but a domineering, unreasonable person. Alfred hated her noisy, loud voice, hated how she always dragged him home by the ear, humiliating him in front of his friends, and hated how Ethel clung to him every day, even forcing him to be her boyfriend. Alfred looked at Ethel's always fierce expression, unwilling to admit but undeniably stunningly beautiful face. So even though he resisted and resented it in his heart, he still agreed in the end. This made him suddenly feel an indescribable loneliness and boredom at night, and he felt a trace of relief when he could still snuggle warmly and softly against someone in his arms to hold tightly and rely on. As for Ethel, Alfred never thought it was about liking or love. He believed it was just simple dependence, just sympathy that arose from seeing Ethel all alone. So, when his biological parents came knocking, asking him to marry for the sake of inheriting the company, Alfred agreed without hesitation. This was the life he was meant to have. Boundless glory, arms full of flowers. By his side should stand a wife of equal status, gentle and considerate. The last possibility would be Ethel. Alfred easily dismissed her with money. Yet unexpectedly, Ethel didn't make a scene as he had imagined. Nor did she protest with a "Death to scumbags" banner at his company's entrance, or simply give him a slap or a kick. These Ethel did none of. She just calmly glanced at the check in her hand, slowly clenched it. She gave a faint mm in response, then turned and walked away, without even casting him one last glance. Alfred felt an inexplicable unease and panic stirring within him, but was interrupted by his approaching fiancée. Who is she? Alfred easily had his gaze drawn away by the female lead in a deep red dress, casually remarking, "Oh, it's nothing." Just someone I've met once or twice before. Trying to latch onto me now that I've made it big. Ethel hadn't gone far. My body stiffened upon hearing those words. My hand instinctively moved to cover my stomach. Yes. She was pregnant. Alfred couldn't stand Ethel's temper anymore and would deliberately torment her in bed. There was even one time when he didn't use protection. Ethel was furious. Alfred remained nonchalant. What are the odds? But the odds were exactly that. Alfred didn't know. That was the last time he saw Ethel. The proud and strong-willed Ethel died in a car accident on her way to the hospital for an abortion. But was that really the case? Alfred. For nearly 15 years. Where did the food you eat every day come from? Where did your tuition and living expenses come from? Have you ever thought about it? All of that was Ethel working tirelessly from dawn to dusk. Earning every penny. Even to help the troublemaker Alfred pay off his debts. Someone as smart as Ethel. Who even topped the class. Gave up her studies so easily to work. Only to end up like this. Why? Just because she's merely a tool. A benevolent ex-girlfriend who ensures the male lead doesn't die and even lives comfortably without worrying about basic necessities. I questioned the system. The system paused for a moment before saying, perhaps Ethel is too fiery and domineering. No male lead would want a female lead like that. Now I understand. The reason the system made me transmigrate into Ethel. Because in the original world, her personality and mine were exactly the same. I sneered. What's wrong with being wild and strong-willed? Working yourself to death every day. Coming home to see some neon-haired punk riding a loud motorcycle around the streets like a fly. And still having to cheerfully humor him. And besides, if Ethel doesn't toughen up a bit, how could such a thin, petite girl survive while dragging along a childish, incompetent little boy like a blood-sucking parasite? Just let anyone bully her. Before I transmigrated here, I grew up in an orphanage. Because of my small and thin frame, I was often bullied. I mustered the courage to tell the teacher. The female teacher just gave me a cold glance and said, "Who can you blame if you're useless yourself?" I didn't feel any sadness or despair. Instead, I suddenly understood everything. The next day, I flipped the lunch tray onto the head of the little fat kid who always bullied me, then vented my anger by smashing it down on him a few more times, making him wail loudly. When the girl from the opposite dorm arrogantly demanded I take out her trash, I calmly walked over and dumped all of it onto her bed. From that day on, my reputation was made. No one dares to mess with me anymore. I recall the scene I just flipped through. Ethel discovered the vegetable vendor's scale was rigged. It didn't weigh the full 3 pounds. And argued with him. Alfred embarrassedly grabbed Ethel's clothes and pulled her away. It's just a few bucks. Is it really worth it? I couldn't help but sneer. It seems the male lead is still being overly protected. The system looked at me with a cold smile, sending chills down my spine. Anyway, don't worry about the rest. Just follow the script and take good care of the male lead. Meaning I'm purely a tool. Letting Alfred continue comfortably and without burden holding the male lead script. Nothing else to worry about. Is that really okay? I'm determined to take charge of this. If he doesn't suffer now, when will he ever get to suffer later? That very day, I forced Alfred to get his tattoo removed. Alfred cursed at me while wiping away his tears. I kicked him. Take a shower or not. Up to you. If you don't even think about hugging me to sleep tonight. Alfred snorted. As if I care. Nighttime. He stubbornly grabbed his pillow and blanket and headed to the couch, tossing and turning. I couldn't fall asleep for the longest time. I kept feeling like something was missing in my arms, then quietly climbed into my bed in the dark. Of course, I promptly kicked them right back off. So early the next morning, Alfred went to wait outside the tattoo parlor. The boss jingled his keys, humming a tune leisurely as he came to open the door. Before he could even steady himself, a dark figure rushed up from the roadside. Quick, quick, save me. The voice sounded as if suffocating and drowning, on the verge of death at any moment. The boss, nervous and frightened, asked, "What's wrong with you? Do we need to call an ambulance?" Alfred clung to his leg with a pitiful expression. "Help me remove this tattoo quickly. Or else. The boss widened his eyes. Or else what? Alfred. Or else my girlfriend won't let me cuddle her while sleeping. Boss. Get away. I said get away. Didn't you hear me?" The morning after removing the tattoo, I held Alfred's hand. "Be good. Let's go somewhere." Alfred looked at me strangely. "Don't talk like that. It's giving me goosebumps." "Me? Move your ass faster. Don't make me slap you." "Alfred." As we got closer to the place, Alfred gradually began to sense that something wasn't quite right. Why does this road feel so familiar? Until he stood at the entrance of No. 1 high school. His expression suddenly changed. "Why are we here?" I gently straightened his collar for him. "Go repeat your senior year." Though inwardly, I rolled my eyes. "Ethel gave up her own education to work and pay for your schooling. Yet you fooled around every day and didn't even show up for the college entrance exam. Don't you hate studying and learning? If you don't get into a decent university, I'll make you repeat every grade. Before you enjoy life, you should taste the bitterness of studying." Alfred heard. "I'm not going. Damn it." After saying that, he turned to run. I was already prepared and grabbed him by the collar. "I've already signed you up. If you don't go, I won't want you anymore. Get out of the house today. Sleep on the streets. Be a beggar, with no food to eat and no girlfriend to hold at night." "Fine. I will." Alfred glared at me resentfully. "I'm not going." With that, she shook off my hand and walked away. I stood there smiling with my arms crossed. 3, 2, 1. Indeed. The countdown isn't even finished yet. Alfred turned back with a scowl on his face. "I was forced by you. Not doing this willingly." All right. I took out the black backpack I had prepared earlier from the corner and put it on Alfred. Then I smoothed out his messy hair. Throughout the process, Alfred kept glaring at me with resentment. I didn't pay any attention. After tidying up, I stepped back and tilted my head to examine for a moment. "Now you look like a proper student. Quite well behaved." Alfred immediately blushed and turned his head away. "What do you mean well behaved? I'm not a child anymore. So you do know that." I smiled and said, "Then hurry up and get inside. Go to the office and complete all the paperwork." The teacher led us to Alfred's new classroom. "Sit there." She pointed to the seat by the window in the back row. I nudged Alfred on the back. He reluctantly walked over and sat down. I ruffled his hair. "Study hard." Alfred ignored me. "Then I'm leaving." Just as I turned around, someone grabbed my sleeve. His awkward voice came from behind. "Then, come pick me up from school early." Alfred kept staring at the figure outside the door until it walked away and disappeared from sight. Only then did he relax, lying on the desk ready to catch up on some sweet sleep, completely ignoring the teacher on the podium telling everyone to take out their textbooks. "Ethel, you're so stupid. Do you really think sending me to school will make me study hard?" He happily turned over again, only to find someone suddenly sitting in the previously empty seat to his left. The person was smiling and greeting him. "Hi, dear desk mate." Alfred was startled, suddenly stepping back. "Lee, Ethel, what are you doing here?" I smiled and said, "I'm here to repeat the year too, and I'm even your desk mate." But inwardly, I sneered. Why can't I be here? Are you worth me? Ethel dropping out of school to work? Originally, Ethel could have attended a top university and had a brilliant future. Why should she give it up for someone like you? And in the original world, a few months before the college entrance exam, I lost both hands in a car accident, missed the exam, and never recovered from the setback. Here, I have a completely healthy body. This time, even if it's for Ethel, it's also for myself. To make up for this regret. Alfred didn't believe it. But why you just left? Didn't you? Oh, just now. I went to the bathroom. I wiped the water off my hands with a tissue. Alfred realized the fact that I was indeed his deskmate, and his expression gradually turned to despair. Oh, the bathroom. Ha. Oh, that's good. Ha ha. Ha ha. He sat back down stiffly, pulled out the new textbook from the desk compartment and flipped it open with utter despair. I leaned over to remind him. You got the wrong one. It's English class. Alfred gritted his teeth. Mind your own business. A crisp slap echoed throughout the entire classroom. Classmates and teachers all turned their gaze in this direction. They noticed the new student Alfred pouting pitifully as he fished out his English textbook, his other hand tightly covering the left side of his face, where a faint red slap mark could barely be seen. The teacher had taught Alfred before and knew his usual antics. She pretended not to see it. With summer approaching, mosquitoes in the classroom will increase. Everyone can spray some insect repellent. The students suddenly realized, oh, we were just swatting mosquitoes. Then they all turned back to look at the blackboard in unison. There really were a lot of mosquitoes. The sound of slapping hands could be heard several more times during the class. During one class, Alfred thought about many things. Otherwise, he might just climb over the wall and skip class later. But he knew that after returning home, Ethel wouldn't let him off the hook. So he could only obediently pretend to be a good student in his seat. However, playing the role of a well-behaved student isn't that easy to pull off. Just a few sentences in, and my eyelids couldn't help but start drooping. So Ethel helped him quite effectively. She even considerately leaned in and whispered in his ear, "Still sleepy? Need another slap? Or I could pinch your thigh instead." Alfred shook his head repeatedly. "Thank you. Thank you. No need. I'm not sleepy anymore." Haha. Finally, the school day ended. Alfred grabbed his pre-packed school bag and was about to run. I yanked his hoodie's hood. "Where are you going?" Alfred forced a smile. "A bit hungry. Want to go home for dinner." "Oh, you can cook by yourself." His face turned ashen. "No way." "Then come with me." Standing in front of the luxurious hotel entrance, the delight in his eyes was impossible to hide. "Ethel, you're the best. Taking me to such a fancy place." He was so happy he didn't know what to do with himself, spinning in circles like an excited puppy before finally throwing his arms around me. "Ethel, I love you to death." I remained silent, simply smiling without a word, as I led him inside. Bypassing the spacious front hall, my steps didn't pause. Alfred was puzzled for a moment, then suddenly seemed to realize something, unable to suppress a smile at the corner of his mouth. "Ethel, you didn't book a private room, did you? We really don't need to eat that fancy. After all, money doesn't come easy for you. Just grabbing a table and ordering casually is fine. I'm easy to please." Though he said so, his steps were faster than anyone else's. I still didn't respond to him, until I brought him to the back kitchen. Alfred froze in place, looking at me somewhat bewildered. "Ethel, are we ordering food here?" "What food?" I pretended as if I had just remembered. "Oh, I forgot to tell you. You're here to wash dishes and earn money." I handed him the apron. Your tuition is quite expensive. You'll have to work to pay it off yourself. Alfred. He stared at the dirty, food-stained apron in his hands, frozen for a full minute. Only then did I realize what I was saying when I came over. Why should I? I won't do it. I've been in class all day and haven't even had dinner yet. How can you have the heart to make me wash dishes and work? The more he spoke, the more aggrieved he felt, tears welling up in his eyes. I pretended not to hear and turned to leave. Alfred panicked, throwing off his apron as he rushed to follow, but his path was blocked by the burly, fierce-looking head chef. New here. There's a pile of dishes waiting. No slacking off. An overwhelming shadow immediately loomed before him. Alfred swallowed hard, forcing a smile as he tied on the apron. Ha. Coming right up. Coming right up. Close to midnight. Alfred dragged his exhausted body home. The moment he saw me, his lips quivered and tears started falling. Ethel, how could you be so heartless? I washed over 1,000 dishes today. My hands are about to fall off. You have to massage them for me. As he spoke, he extended his hand toward me. I ignored him. Have you finished your homework? Alfred widened his eyes. What? I've been tired all day. I said coldly. Go do it now. Don't make me say it a third time. Thinking himself pitiful, Alfred wiped his tears while catching up on homework and cursing me. Ethel, I really hate you so much. Why are you so mean? Woo. Fortunately, most of it was written during the day under my pressure. At 2 a.m., he was finally able to go to bed. Because he was too angry, he didn't even come over to stick to me anymore. Pressed tightly against the wall. Stay away from me. Don't even think about touching me tonight. I was woken up by him and kicked out in frustration. Shut up. If you're not sleeping, get out. Alfred suddenly went silent, as if someone had grabbed him by the throat. Just 10 seconds later, muffled sobs came intermittently from the corner again. I couldn't stand the noise any longer, but I was afraid that if I scolded him again, he might cry all night. So I could only symbolically ruffle his hair as a gesture of comfort. Stop crying and go to sleep. You have school tomorrow morning. As soon as the words fell, Alfred turned around and suddenly buried himself in my arms. Fine. I'll reluctantly forgive you. Me? I thought he wouldn't last another 2 days before exploding in frustration. Unexpectedly, he managed to hold on for a whole week. At night, he returned home physically and mentally exhausted, yet he still dutifully went to do his homework. As he was writing, he suddenly turned around and shook me awake. Ethel, wake up. I impatiently raised my hand and slapped him. So annoying. Alfred rarely didn't get angry, just lowered his voice a little. Ethel, today the head chef said you used to work there too, and that you worked all day to earn money, then went to wash dishes at night, and even helped in the kitchen afterward. Is that true? I responded with a hum. He suddenly fell silent, pausing for a few seconds. Was the money you earned back then for my tuition? I turned over. What else would it be for? Alfred fell silent again. He lowered his head, lost in thought. I didn't think much of it, closed my eyes, and went back to sleep. Suddenly, my body sank, and a pair of hands tightly embraced me. Ethel, you've been working so hard. I'm sorry. I was still half asleep and patted his back reassuringly. It's fine. Just try to do fewer things you'll regret later. For some reason, from that day onward, Alfred started acting a bit strange. No need for me to drag him along. He willingly went to the restaurant on his own. Once there, he didn't dawdle either, deftly tying on an apron, grabbing a scrubber, and crouching down to start cleaning. His expression was so serious, as if he were doing something of great importance. Even after it was over, he proactively told me that one part-time job wasn't enough. He could finish his homework at school during the day. After washing dishes at night, he could still work the late shift at Heideleo as a waiter. I refused. If you have that kind of energy, you'd be better off practicing more problems. Didn't you rank last in the weekly exam again, Alfred? After the monthly exam results were announced, I was at my seat reviewing my mistakes. A tall boy suddenly leaned in. "Hello, Ethel. Excuse me. Can I ask you a question?" I looked up. Turned out to be the class sports committee member Charlie. Not only is he handsome, but he's also great at basketball. When he smiles, his eyes crinkle with the unique exuberance and unrestrained energy of youth. Many girls in the class have a crush on him. What a shame. I don't like dark skin. Sure. Which question? Charlie seemed surprised by how agreeable I was, pausing for a moment before quickly handing over the test paper. His slender, well-defined fingers pointing to the last major question. This one. The sound of explaining the problem woke up Alfred, who had been sleeping nearby. He opened his eyes and glanced at us, then closed them again. Not even 2 seconds later, he suddenly opened them wide again. "What are you here for?" He glared at Charlie, his face full of defensive displeasure. I tugged at him. "Can't you speak properly?" Charlie was taken aback, somewhat confused, but still answered seriously. "I came to ask Ethel about a problem." Alfred darkened his expression and snatched the pen and test paper from my hand. "Can't you ask me? Why does it have to be Ethel?" "Which question?" Charlie instinctively pointed to the last question. This one." Alfred glanced at it and shamelessly said, "No idea. You can leave." Charlie, about the Ethel class reunion. You let her. Alfred suddenly frowned. Isn't the last big question usually beyond the syllabus? Ethel definitely wouldn't know either. Who are you trying to embarrass here? Charlie patiently explained. Ethel really can do it. She got full marks in math in this monthly exam, and she was the only one in the class who could solve the last out-of-syllabus question. What's your relationship with her that you call her Ethel? You. Halfway through, Alfred paused. What did you say? Before Charlie could explain further, Alfred instantly stood up and rushed to the honor wall at the back of the classroom. The monthly exam ranking list was posted there. He spotted Ethel's name almost immediately. At the very top, total score 705. Also ranking first in the grade. Alfred was absent-minded all day. I thought he was upset seeing himself at the bottom of the list while I was at the top. So I patted his shoulder to comfort him. It's okay. Just try harder next time. Although you never really tried. Alfred rarely didn't argue with me. He even gave me a strange look. What's wrong? Alfred lowered his head and remained silent. What's wrong? I was about to instinctively slap him when I suddenly remembered he was in a bad mood because of his poor exam results. So I forcefully held back. Alfred suddenly got up and started rummaging through the desk. What are you doing? I reached out to stop him. If you make a mess, you'll have to clean it up before you can sleep. Alfred quickly pulled out a stack of test papers. It was for quizzes and weekly tests. On the snow-white paper were bright red marks of 150 and 148. In disbelief, he pulled out another stack. Still, they were nearly perfect scores of authority. Ethel, see it through to the end. He finally couldn't hold back his exclamation. Your grades are so good. How come I never knew about this? Of course you wouldn't know. Every day in class. You can't wait for it to end. After breakfast. You're already looking forward to lunch. Your mind is never on studying. Then why? He stammered, as if unable to get the words out. Why did you drop out back then? Bringing this up just makes me furious. You forgot. Really? Or are you pretending? Don't you remember it was you who hit an old lady with your bike and had to pay 100,000 in medical fees? You hugged me crying, saying you were done for and would be jailed. In the end, it was me, Ethel, who dropped out to work and paid it off for you. Alfred froze on the spot. So it was you who paid for me. I thought the old lady had a change of heart and let it go. Back then, you even lied to me, saying you dropped out because your grades were bad and it'd be a waste to stay in school. Wow, is this the real male lead? Must have been hit by a donkey or kicked by a door. So you actually believed it back then? I sneered, just about to turn around, but was suddenly tightly embraced from behind. Lee. Ethel. I'm sorry. Alfred held on for a long time, until I couldn't take it anymore and grabbed his head to pull him off me. Have you finished today's homework? If not, go do it now. He was actually well behaved while doing homework tonight. Unlike before, he didn't dawdle or squirm around like a maggot. Instead, he even seriously asked me several questions. However, I gradually realized later on, not just tonight, from that day onward, he seemed like a completely different person. He stopped taking naps after class and buried himself in studying. All he did was study and glare at the boys who came to ask me questions. No wonder he's the male lead. With just a little effort, his grades improved by leaps and bounds. 3 months before the college entrance exam, he had already made it into the top 10 of his grade. How about it, Ethel? Alfred smugly wrapped his arm around my shoulder. I'll surpass you soon. I knocked his hand away. Keep dreaming. College entrance exams. Alfred performed exceptionally well. He was only 1 point behind me. I was successfully admitted to Harvard University as the top science student. When I received the admission letter, I instinctively glanced at my perfectly intact hands. An indescribable bitterness welled up in my chest. If I hadn't been in that car accident in my original world, would the outcome have been the same? Unexpectedly, after the college entrance exams, he had already paid off his tuition fees long ago. Alfred still insisted on working part-time jobs, leaving early and returning late every day. He often brought me barbecue and milk tea when he came home. Once, he even spent a month's salary to buy me a rather expensive scarf. I have to say, I was a little touched. It gave me a sense of relief, like my son had finally grown up and become sensible. Alfred, on his birthday, I drank alcohol for the first time. I never expected that once I started drinking, I couldn't stop. In the end, it was Alfred who took the bottle from my hand. Ethel, stop drinking. Alfred cupped my face in his hands. Make me watch him and listen to him against my will. In the half-lit, half-dark glow, drunk, I locked eyes with him. The next second, Alfred seemed about to kiss me. However, having drunk too much, I instinctively felt like vomiting. I turned my face away and vomited all over Alfred. Alfred. In the evening, after tidying up, it was time to sleep. Alfred held me very tightly. Ethel, you must stay with me always. Alfred and I attended the same school, but because I was studying medicine, I was constantly busy every day. Alfred would come to the lab or library with his computer if he couldn't reach me. Every time I was memorizing notes or conducting experiments there, I'd turn around and see Alfred sitting at a spot very dented. Joy. Ethel, I'd found my birth parents. Though my heart instantly plummeted in weightlessness, I still smiled and said, "Congratulations." I looked at the Alfred before me, trying to find traces of that dark, skinny boy from years past in his sharp, cold eyebrows and eyes. But there was nothing. He increasingly possessed the appearance and demeanor of a male lead, is about to follow its predetermined course. Alfred suddenly seemed to realize something and held me even tighter. Ethel, you must stay with me forever. Who are you trying to fool? Stop feeding me this nonsense. When you inherit the company and marry some rich, beautiful woman, won't you just dump me first? At this thought, I pushed him away. All right. I'm a bit tired. Let's wash up and go to bed. Alfred, on the day my father held a press conference to announce the return of his biological son, Alfred stood by in a well-tailored suit, secretly sending me a message. So nervous. Ethel, tonight, we'll get the old man to move us into a bigger house. Happy. When the time comes, I'll inherit the company, and you'll be the boss's wife. The next second. Just then, Alfred's usually stern father said calmly, besides the joyous news of finding my beloved son, there's another cause for celebration. We have formed a marriage alliance with the family, and in the future, both sides will collaborate for mutual development. Almost simultaneously, Alfred and I in the audience instinctively looked at each other. After leaving early and returning home, I didn't hesitate to start packing my things. Just as I picked up the suitcase, I was blocked at the door by Alfred, who had rushed home panting. Ethel. He saw the suitcase in my hand. His voice was trembling slightly. Are you leaving? I let out a non-committal. Trying my best to appear nonchalant. Also, we should break up. Alfred raised his voice instantly. Why? As if afraid of scaring me. He immediately lowered his tone. Why? I lowered my gaze, not looking at him. The man immediately dropped to his knees with a thud, clutching my legs tightly. His voice filled with utmost grievance. You don't want me anymore. How could you not want me anymore? Why won't you have me? You're killing me. I couldn't bear it and looked away. You're about to enter an arranged marriage. Before I could finish, Alfred cut me off. I won't marry. But the condition for you to inherit the company is an arranged marriage. Alfred snuggled up and hugged my waist, saying firmly, I won't inherit the company either. I looked at him in disbelief. Are you crazy? Alfred held my hand. Ethel, it's okay if you don't believe me. After all, my past actions weren't exactly trustworthy. Just give me some time, and I'll prove it to you. Me, then. You don't think I'm domineering, unreasonable, strong-willed, and annoying? Alfred widened his eyes. Who said that? I'll kill them. That's called having character. And when you hit me, it was so light. You didn't even use any force. So gentle. Besides, without you, there wouldn't be the reformed me I am today. He pressed his face tightly against my hand. You know, I simply can't live without you. Me? Then, don't you think this might just be dependence and pity? Alfred suddenly looked determined. No, I know this is love. I love you, Ethel. As for sympathy, Ethel, have some sympathy for me. I'll really die without you. Me? That night, I still insisted on moving out. At the same time, the system reminded me that the plot had completely collapsed. As punishment, I will be trapped in this world forever. Strolled aimlessly by the riverside for a while. Quickly came to terms with the outcome. Even felt this was far from punishment. More like a reward. Really, only a pair of eyes shone startlingly bright. No matter what the future holds. We're already so fortunate right now. The 5th year of my internship at the city hospital. Nurse Gina nudged me. Hey, that person is here again. I turned to look. Outside the ward, a man in a black overcoat was holding a bouquet of flowers, grinning foolishly at me. The rest is my business. Dr. Lee, you should leave now. Gina pushed me out and thoughtfully closed the door. Just as I stepped out, Alfred grabbed my hand and rubbed it vigorously. Why are your hands so cold? Then he took off his coat and draped it over my shoulders. His eyes sparkled as he looked at me. You haven't eaten yet, have you? I ordered from your favorite place. Let's eat together. No one could resist eyes that looked at them like that. I nodded subconsciously. In the cafeteria, Alfred leaned against me, nuzzling like a puppy. Hey, I just don't know how much longer Dr. Lee needs to observe. My company has already grown big and strong. All it's missing now is a boss's wife. I laughed and pushed his head away. It's still too early for that. That won't do. Alfred wrapped his arms around my waist and shook me vigorously. The weather's nice today. Just say yes already. At least let me finish eating first. The end.